I'm excited. I'm proud of, the people that I see today. I hire people that I hope pass me by,
Yeah.
that I can give the mantle to.
Yeah.
And I can, give those opportunities to. But I think it's inherent to the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
I think people just naturally care.
Yeah.
And I think it is a very relationship-driven industry.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Prosper Brief. Today, we're honored to have Andrew Robinson, Chief Human Resources Officer at CKE Restaurant Holding. Join us as we explore his approach to leading with purpose and driving meaningful impact in the workplace.
Welcome to the Prosper Brief.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for joining us. I would love for you to introduce yourself and give a background of your story.
I'm Andrew Robinson. I'm the CHRO, the Chief Human Resources Officer at CKE Restaurants. They're the franchisor for Carl's Jr. and Hardee's.
Okay.
I've been in this industry way longer than I want to say, but almost 40 years.
Wow.
So I started in the 80s
Okay.
as an hourly team member. Worked my way up to management, went to Hamburger University. I worked at McDonald's first.
Love it.
Hamburger College, became the youngest multi-unit manager in McCopco.
Okay.
And then worked various leadership positions. Somewhere in the 90s, someone asked me to get into HR from operations.
Okay.
I thought it was a kiss of death.
Yes.
Because I was a #1 performing operator.
You're
and they
like,
said,
"What?
no, why would I
this?"
do that? And I fell in love with HR, and I knew I could have a global impact on things.
Really?
Um,
So when you say you fell in love with HR, how, why?
Yeah, because it's such a people business, and I was
Okay.
always fascinated with people and relationships and inspiring people to get the best performance out of them.
Okay.
And there are so many times we're the last person that someone comes to when they need help.
Yeah.
I solve so many issues. I help the organization think about, how it's set up, how it's structured, the rewards, how it engages with their team members. It's such a fun job, and I always remember what it was like when I was an hourly team member.
Okay.
So there's a humbleness to, this job that I have. And every morning I wake up and think I live my best life.
Yeah, that's incredible. So we were just talking.
Yes.
Tell us how many children you have and their ages.
I have 5 boys. I have 2 8-year-olds, a 6-year-old, and 2 5-year-old twins, all boys.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, through the grace of God.
Through the grace of God. Okay, so on that note, how are you balancing an incredible career and now 5 children?
Yeah, I often believe that God gives you things when you're ready.
Okay.
I think this is the perfect phase of my life to have young children.
Yeah.
I have patience. I have so much more wisdom than I would have had in my 20s.
Yes, maturity.
Maturity, stability, and all of those things. And every day is a balance between making what you think the right decisions are. I love my boys. This is, I work every day to build my family, to take care of my family.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely incredible.
But it's crazy.
Yes. So what motivated you to start a family?
I always wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
You often think about what is your purpose in life.
Yeah.
I knew my purpose was to be a father.
Yes.
And to teach 5 kids how to be men. So I knew that was my purpose, and everything that I've done in my life to this point has been for that purpose.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I know you're doing a fantastic job.
On some days.
Yes. Now, do you want your children to go into food service hospitality?
I want them to be happy.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, I want to afford them the opportunity to be able to make decisions for themselves.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I just want them to be happy, productive young men.
Yeah. So you spoke about, I feel like a common theme in this industry is a lot of people that do start out on the floor and work their way up. How is that journey? What is that journey like? How do you recommend people navigate it?
Wow. When I started in this, I just wanted to get a part-time job. I was in high school and I wanted to make money. And I will tell you how long ago this was. I made $2.65 an hour. That was minimum wage. When I became
Tally now.
when I became a swing manager, I made $5 an hour. And I got to tell you, back in the 80s, McDonald's did such a good job of the acculturation of people into the brand. I read everything. I took the book home. I just loved everything about my experience. And I didn't think it was a career. So as I continuously got promoted and I went to college, got my degree in accounting, I remember my parents saying, we didn't send you to college to be working at McDonald's.
Right.
And at that point, I was probably making just as much as my father was making.
Okay.
As a multi-unit manager. And it's so funny looking back that it wasn't quick service then, it was fast food.
Right.
It was an industry that wasn't really respected from a professional standpoint. And it's become such a juggernaut now, and I'm so proud of the role that I and many people like me have played. And you're some of these people are running 10 and $15 million businesses.
Yeah.
They're CEOs of their own business.
Yes.
And I think what's really nice is there's so many opportunities for people today, whether it's through leadership positions or ownership. I mean, hearing about people like Mookie is just amazing.
Yes.
Where he's taken hard work and put sweat equity in, and now he has a piece of the American dream.
Yes.
I think that's fabulous.
Yes. And I feel like it's just been a launching pad. And it is so interesting. I feel like no one knows how quickly you can climb the ladder and how much you can make. To your point of like your parents being like, what are you doing and flipping burgers? But I obviously heard about Chick-fil-A and how well people get paid being a manager of just one store.
Yes.
So why do you think people maybe don't know that?
I think it's a PR campaign that the restaurant industry definitely needs to do. We've talked about this for years. When I go to high school and colleges and talk to them about this as an opportunity, parents don't want their kids doing these type of jobs anymore.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because I think you learn how to manage a business, you learn how to manage people. You're a head supply chain officer, you're head of HR, you're head of marketing, and you do all these amazing things. And I think people underestimate this experience.
Yeah.
I remember my niece came to me and she's 17 years old and she was looking for a job. And I said, why don't you go work at QSR?
Yeah.
And she said, no, I don't want to do that kind of job. I need a more professional job. And I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think you have a lot of executives, a lot of CEOs that start out as hourly team members.
Right.
And there's a humbleness to that experience that helps them know how, in the cold face, to make those connections with guests.
Yeah.
Because they've worked their way up and they understand everyone's job and what that profit chain looks like.
Yes. I think that's so interesting and so valuable because it gives like your ability to relate to everyone within the organization because you've lived it. I'm sure that has helped you in your current position.
Yes.
What are some challenges you face in your position today and maybe some wins?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges are always, we have 5 generations in the workplace.
Yes.
Everywhere from the silent generation, I have biscuit makers that are in their 90s.
Okay.
To Z's, X's, Y's, we've got everybody now. And how you take information to them, how they engage in the workplace, how you talk to them in a compelling sort of way is different.
Okay.
I think there's beauty in that, but there's also a little bit of a challenge in figuring out how to do that. I think what we've done at CKE is really about creating opportunity.
Okay.
And telling the story of opportunity. Most of my district managers were hourly team members.
Okay.
So when people come aboard, I talk about careers.
Yes.
While you may think this is a job, it's not where you start, it's where you end up at. And it's really, and we talked about in the Prosper Forum yesterday, saying yes to all of these opportunities. It's being very mindful at an early age to say, I am managing a career. And be very thoughtful about all the experiences that lead you to something. And you may not know early on what that something is, but taking all the experiences. I think from an HR standpoint, whether it is, what's happening in the workplace from a legal and a regulatory standpoint, I think it is, the war for talent that we have out there.
Yes.
Years ago, restaurant people just worked in the restaurant industry, retail folks worked in the retail industry. There's just a collapse of industries right now. And I'm competing against someone at Uber who can monetize their car and get paid every day.
Right.
I'm competing with Google. I'm competing with everyone for the best experience. And that's why it's so important that people feel an affinity to your brand and you built that affinity and you built that higher purpose.
Yeah, that's incredible. It is so interesting because I feel like a common theme we hear is the war on talent.
Yes.
Why is that? Do you feel people aren't coming in at the bottom, or like starting their young careers here, or people are leaving? What's the biggest challenge?
Well, I think that there was a huge reset with the pandemic.
Yeah.
There's a whole population, the Restaurant Association did a great study on this, that left the industry because of the pandemic and never came back. There is a new level that is coming in that needs more work skills.
Okay.
That we are, preparing for the workforce. And again, I think people are looking for positions and really look down on, service industry and don't see what the opportunity creates for them.
Yeah.
And I think, again, we have to do a better job of promoting it out there and having leaders speak their story and speak their truth and talk about where they've come from.
Because I think that's what's incredible about being here, your peers, is it does feel like people started entry level and got sucked into the people, the love of the industry, and then have really flourished, right?
And I think that whether you and the really great part about it is you don't need a college degree.
Right.
You don't need a lot of prerequisites. If you can drive results and you can have an affinity towards managing people and get the best performance out of them, you can go to the top.
Yes,
I mean, you can be a CEO. You can have multi-million-dollar contracts.
Yeah.
And I think that's the wonderful part of this industry is that nothing is a prerequisite to get to the next level.
Right. So it's interesting you mentioned that. Do you feel like, the need of college degrees are going to go away? Do you think maybe that will cause an influx of more people looking into this industry?
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone that went and got a college degree. I think a college degree is good, so I'm not downplaying it. But for the person that college isn't right for and wants to go into the workplace and create a career, this is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
And there are so many skills that you don't learn in college that I learned, running a multi-million-dollar business. I was 18 years old and I was running a $5 million McDonald's.
I mean,
And while my accounting classes were great and my business classes were
Right.
great, it wasn't like that real life experience of understanding what my decisions were and what those impacts were and actually seeing from a profit statement. I was
Yeah.
responsible for 150 people,
yeah.
their livelihood,
I mean, at
their
18.
success at 18 years old. And there's beauty in that.
Yeah, no, that's so empowering.
Yes.
So where did it take you after that? I know you mentioned starting there, but what was your next journey? What was
Yeah.
some of the moves, shakes? What would you do over again or maybe not?
Yeah.
I mean, we all love our journey.
This is going to be too funny because you guys may not even remember this. I left McDonald's and went to Blockbuster Video.
Love it.
They don't even exist anymore. And Blockbuster at the time was bigger than their top 50 competitors.
Yes.
And this is when the video business, we rented Sega and Nintendos and
Oh, yeah.
VCRs and all
remember.
of that.
Friday night.
Yes, and I
Place
would
to be.
and whenever the weather snowstorm came, my whole walls were rented. But it was owned by Viacom at the time, and they were a multimedia conglomerate. And it was just a really good experience. I started out as a district manager, became a regional director of operations. Must have been about 24, and I had all of Washington, D.C. reporting to me.
Okay.
So about 88 locations. And at that point, I had only worked in fast food, wanted to experience something else, wanted to see how it didn't go home at nighttime smelling like grease.
Fair enough. I worked at Starbucks.
Yeah,
I
so-
get it. You're like, I can't get it off of me.
just had to figure out how to do something that's a little bit different. So I did that, and then I worked for a home building supply place. It was a predecessor to Home Depot. They were
Okay.
called Heckinger's,
Okay.
Builder Square HQ. Became a vice president, had 175 million in volume responsibility.
Wow.
And at that point, someone tapped me on the shoulder to get into HR.
Okay.
They were owned by venture capitalists.
Okay.
My HR leader had left the business and they said, Andrew, you'd be great in HR. And I said, oh God, those are the academic people. I don't want to be in HR. I
Like,
want to be
no,
where the
come
business
on.
happens
Yeah.
at. And I was a top performer. And I remember thinking to myself, what have I done wrong?
Yeah.
Like I'm putting the best numbers out there. I've got the biggest sales increase and all of those things. And they said, no, you have developed people. You get people promoted. You're a
Wow.
connoisseur of talent. And that was when HR wasn't as complicated as it is today. I decided at that point to go to law school.
Okay.
So I had read this book by Earl Graves, who said that intellectual property was becoming a big segment from a legal standpoint, and it's
Okay.
not only protecting the company's physical asset; it was their intellectual assets. So I started going to law school. I did my first assignment in HR, and it was a wonderful time because we only had one other HR person. I was doing my own position papers for EEOC. I was doing my own human rights things. I was doing my
Wow.
own wage and hour, and I had the right type of applicable experience. So it was a real good breeding ground for me. And I loved it. I worked until we closed the last location.
Okay.
And then I was hired by the Gap.
Easy.
So I was the second HR person that they hired
Really?
for Old Navy. And it was just, working for a brand that was growing,
Yes.
growing so quickly. And back in those days with Performance Fleece, they were just the hottest brand around.
Oh.
We couldn't keep up with the sales. We couldn't keep up with the units. We were opening locations left and right. And it
Right.
was just a wonderful growth company. And Gap was a really great company that knew how to balance support functions, had great HR infrastructure, had great tools and processes in place, was very evolved from an organizational design standpoint. standpoint, just really did some really powerful things.
Okay.
At that point, I was recruited by the Limited Brands. I worked for Learners,
Okay.
which became New York and Company.
Okay. Yes. Familiar with that.
And a leader, Kevin Finnegan, who was my mentor, moved to the Limited Brands, and I followed him there.
Okay.
Had my first time working in a unionized environment, so I did my collective bargaining and all of that. And along the way, once I got in HR, there were certain experiences that I wanted to have. I wanted to work in a union environment. I wanted to work for a public company. I wanted to work for a private company. I wanted to work for a company that was probably on a downward spiral, a company that was in high growth.
Yeah, like
because
you.
all of those things really give you rich experiences from an
Yes.
HR perspective. Went to Bath and Body Works from there, got promoted from New York company to Bath and Body Works. And then I did my my entrepreneurial thing. I went and worked
Good.
for Lifetime Fitness.
Okay.
So pre-public, I worked for a gentleman called Brahma Krati.
Okay.
Started Lifetime Fitness. This was before they were on the cusp of going public.
Okay.
Was really exciting being a part of a leadership team that took it public. I was the head of HR. We were in a big acquisition phase and
Yeah.
merger phase. Really loved that experience. And then got a call from TGI Fridays.
Okay.
Loved TGI Fridays. Grew up with that brand. Knew it very
Yeah.
well. It was a brand that probably had gotten a little off of its greatness, but just being a part of repositioning it was really powerful. I started as a VP of HR for the U.S. business.
Okay.
And when I left there, I was a Chief People and Culture Officer.
Amazing.
So I stayed until, the Carlson family sold.
Okay.
And we were bought by 2 PE firms, and I stayed until probably the last 20 restaurants that were company owned. They went highly franchised.
Okay.
I was part of the due diligence to sell those locations. And then I got recruited by CKE Restaurants.
Amazing.
At the time, had not heard of CKE Restaurants.
Yes.
The biggest secret out there. And we're a $5 billion brand. We have 4,000 locations worldwide. We continue to grow. We continue to reposition the Hardee's brand, reposition the Carl's brand. And it's just an amazing experience. And I'm fortunate to work with a dynamic, really A-level executive team.
Good.
And we're doing great things over there.
I love it. That's amazing. So what are you excited for in the future?
Yeah, I'm excited for the continued growth at CK.
Yeah.
Our international business is growing in leaps and bounds.
Okay.
We just went to a brand president-centric structure. So I'm excited to see how the impact that has on each of our 3 business units. I'm excited about our new CEO and some wonderful things that he is doing from a consumer standpoint, from a technology standpoint,
Okay.
meeting guests where they're at. Technology is so important.
Yeah.
Again, post-pandemic, most drive-thrus are doing 80% of the business. People aren't
Okay.
going into locations anymore. How you meet people digitally where they're at, and what does
Yes.
that digital footprint look like? I think it's really some exciting work that we're doing right now.
That's incredible. And all things, a little bit outside HR, but all encompassing.
And I'm excited to be here at Prosper.
Yeah.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and I, quite honestly, I'm jealous and wish their program existed when I was coming up like this.
I know. Can you imagine?
So I would have leaders that, when I was the first African American on most executive teams that I
Okay.
worked on, I didn't have that role model. I learned through hard knocks and
Yep.
by making mistakes and having people that, while they didn't look like me, cared about my career. And I think Prosper creates this, place where there was a void before, where you can talk to other leaders out there. We have some amazing leaders in this industry.
Yeah.
And young people making these decisions today have so many people to choose from to either cameo, their relationships and what their career trajectories have looked like, but just to ask a lot of questions and figure out how they fit in.
Yeah. Something I mentioned when I was speaking with Michael Beecham, I feel like the access to the C-levels, and maybe it's just this event, but I feel like it's very welcoming, very warm, where prior to entering this industry, I was in software sales, and it felt like C-levels were almost out of touch, right? They weren't as close, and this is, again, just so welcoming. Is that how you feel as well?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think because this is such a people-intensive business, it's all about the people, and you have so many people that have done multiple jobs here that they really believe this, the old proverb about each one teach one and push and pull. People are really committed to getting, that next generation ahead. I mean, there are people that I mentor regularly There are people that my peers are mentoring regularly that want to give back, that want to see and be whatever role they can play with this next generation. I'm excited. I'm proud of, the people that I see today. I hire people that I hope pass me by, that I can give the mantle to, and I can, give those opportunities to. But I think it's inherent to the restaurant industry. I think people just naturally care. I mean, I come here and I see people that I knew 20 years ago, and the first thing you do is hug them and kind of catch up. And I think it is a very relationship-driven industry.
Yeah, it's like everyone's
family
here.
Yeah, everyone's family here.
So speaking of mentorship,
yes.
I know myself, like when I have reached out, wanted to be mentor, I didn't always feel like what are the right questions? How I want to, maybe if I don't take up too much of their time, they'll like me more. Or this environment of how do I do the dance of being respectful, but also making sure I'm getting developed and I'm on the calendar. Do you have any advice to our accelerators or to young people that want to really capitalize on a mentorship and how to make sure they're being professional?
Yeah, I think you have to be really thoughtful about the time that you spend and be planful. The mentoring that has worked the best for me is when I have mentees that come prepared. They have questions. They have advice. They have real life stories they can talk to me about, their career advices. And I don't necessarily have all the answers. I'm helping them think about the decisions they have to make, because what was the right answer for me may not be the right answer for them. Someone that is committed to the mentoring relationship. It's more than just a program, but it's something that they really want to maximize the opportunity for. And then as a mentor, finding the time and the space, I'm very thoughtful about not taking too many mentees because I want to have that time to spend, the quality time to spend with people. But I think, thinking back to my younger self, it definitely would have been, make sure you're prepared. Make sure you stay on top of what those relationships look like. Sometimes you're going to have to be a little aggressive and get on the calendar. To make sure that, because life happens for a lot of executives. You have to be flexible. And I also think, do your research. I think too many people come with questions that I kind of say are cursory questions. Do a little bit of research. Be just very thoughtful about the time. The other thing that I think is, use all the technology you have out there. Some of my mentees will text me. Some will send me a LinkedIn message. And at my age, I'm getting used to all the different ways that people reach out to you. So some are conversations, some are Zoom. But, find out what your mentor, find out what that rhythm is and how you can both effectively communicate. It works for both of you. There are times, just flying out here, I was texting someone some advice.
Good.
And I couldn't have gotten on the phone with them, but they needed something in that moment, and I wanted to make sure I was available to them.
That's incredible. So, they'll work that out with their specific mentor, but...
And don't only look for people in position. Look for people that really care about mentoring. People that care and are invested in you. I know everyone wants to be the mentee to the CEO. CEOs have a limited amount of time. There's a whole lot of different C-suite folks out there. Find out the commonality of the experience that you guys have and what possibly builds that relationship that makes it rooted in a little bit more than, just you getting ahead. So make sure there's an authentic connection. And sometimes you have to do those, a little bit of research on the person.
Even cross-divisionally, I'm already learning so much, right? And I've really only been in sales most of my life. Now I'm VP of Business Development. And I think you get so heads down in your lane of okay, do my job. If I do my job, so great. But sometimes you got to look up and even...
I think there's richness in that cross-pollination. I'm a more analytical person. I actually, while I don't have a mentor now, I do have my peers, and I seem to gravitate to creative people. Because I think it's a right brain, left brain thing, and you want to balance yourself out, and you want to have someone that thinks very differently from you. And it's critical to your process and your journey, and is probably scaling things a little bit different. I think the other thing that's important is giving back. So I am the past chair of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I was on the board of directors for Susan Komen. So I want to make sure that people give back to the community. Too much is given, much is expected. And I think those things are important to make sure that you're balanced.
I think that brings a lot to every day for sure. Brings a little more meaning than just trying to get that paycheck.
Makes you a good human being, and we need a lot of goodness in this world right now.
We do. Well, one last question.
Yes.
What has been your favorite part of Prosper so far?
Wow. Hattie and Scent. But just meeting, whether it is the accelerators,
Yeah.
having them come up and introduce themselves, having people through the app send me questions,
Good.
and just seeing old friends that I hadn't seen in years. This
Yeah.
has been a really good experience. And being the father of 5 kids, this has been a vacation for me. So, yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
the
This is
podcast.
great.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in. If Andrew Robinson's perspective on purposeful leadership inspires you, be sure to subscribe, share, and join us for more impactful discussions. We'll see you next time here on the Prosper Brief.